Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Colleen Cotter, and I'm the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Thank you. On behalf of our Board of Directors and our staff, I want to welcome you to what we know will be a wonderful evening. So please enjoy your dinner, and we will start the program in about 15 or 20 minutes. Thank you. Welcome once again. We are delighted that you all could join us this evening. Joining me here on the dais this evening are Isla Adkins, Legal Aid's Board President, and Congressman Lewis Stokes, a member of Legal Aid's Board of Directors. And I'm honored to extend a special welcome to our guest, Congressman, the Honorable John Lewis, Congressman of Georgia. Congressman, you are truly an American hero. Those of you who have joined us for these events before may recognize that we use a theme each year that captures our work and our passion for justice. These themes help us convey our quest for justice for low-income and vulnerable people in our community. Last year, for example, our theme was the presence of justice. We drew that memorable phrase from Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail, proclaiming that in a just world, everyone, including the most vulnerable among us, is treated with dignity and is blessed with opportunity. Several years earlier, our theme was a passion for justice, focusing on our unrelenting determination to close the yawning justice gap in a nation where people every day lose their homes, their income, their opportunities because they do not have a lawyer. The common thread that runs through all we do at the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland wields the power of the law to secure justice and resolve fundamental problems for those with low income and who are vulnerable by providing high-quality legal services and working for systemic solutions. And that is what we do every day. We are one of only 6 legal aid organizations in Ohio and Cleveland's 16th largest law firm. We have a staff of 85, including 52 attorneys, and we have 1,800 volunteer lawyers and 200 law student volunteers. Our work ranges from housing to health to bankruptcy to work and public benefits to education, foreclosure, immigration, family law, and tax. We have clients and offices across 5 counties in Northeast Ohio, from Lorain in the west to Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga, and Ashtabula in the east. Each year, more and more people call us for legal assistance. Last year, our offices handled 110,000 calls. 17,000 people applied for legal assistance, a 14% increase from 2008, the beginning of this recession. And we had to turn away 8,000 of those in need because we do not have the resources. This is a window, indeed, into the dark times in our region. Yet, even as the need for legal aid has grown and our resources have shrunk with this recession, we've been able to increase our services to our clients. Last year, we served more than 11,000 clients, a 25% increase over 2008. We've been able to increase our services for 2 main reasons. First, our staff. Our staff work hard to be more effective and more efficient every day. Our staff is a diverse group, each bringing strengths as individuals that when linked together create a powerful team for justice. Would legal aid staff members please stand up so we can recognize you for your tremendous work? And we've also been able to increase our services because we've expanded our volunteer lawyers program, which is incredibly valuable to the entire region. The economic impact of our pro bono attorneys on Northeast Ohio is impressive. The value in donated time in 2010 was $1.3 million, using a conservative $145 billable rate. This $1.3 million investment yielded $14 million in economic benefit to our clients, representing increased assets, increased income, or reduced debt. You may not have ever heard of these 1,800 volunteer lawyers who do everything from representing clients in complex cases to giving up their Saturday mornings to counsel at our walk-in clinics across the region. But you can be sure that those in a neighborhood church or community center in Collinwood, Glenville, Lorraine, or Ashtabula, and those threatened with eviction or foreclosure, they know them and they know their impact. I'd like to take a moment and recognize our volunteer attorneys. Would everyone here who is a legal aid pro bono attorney please stand so we can thank you? What our staff and our volunteer attorneys do for our community is embodied in this year's theme. It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Faced with the often overwhelming needs of our clients, combined with our limited resources to address those needs, it would be understandable if we found ourselves cursing the darkness. Understandable, yes, but also futile. Instead, legal aid is very much in the candle lighting business. Imagine the darkness of living with domestic abuse, the threat of foreclosure or eviction, the denial of benefits, which means the loss of the only income you have, or of having a disabled child whose special needs are ignored by her school. And then, imagine how you'd feel when a legal aid attorney helps you get a divorce or protection order, arranges a loan modification, prevents an eviction, restores benefits, or enforces a school's obligation to give your child the help that she needs to succeed. That is indeed lighting up the darkness. So the phrase seemed a perfect metaphor to convey the impact of our work on our clients, who without funds and without a voice, live in the darkness of injustice. The phrase, by the way, has been credited to both John F. Kennedy and Adlai Stevenson. It is how Stevenson once characterized Eleanor Roosevelt. We'll take either. But it's also been credited to that most prolific coiner of pithy insights, ancient Chinese proverb. In any case, it is better to light a candle than curse the darkness is indeed the story of what we do. And because light means music, we chose to complement it this evening with a song that is one of the great anthems of the civil rights movement, This Little Light of Mine, a children's song from 1939. Already you've heard This Little Light of Mine from the Cleveland Institute of Music students, and we'll hear several more renditions throughout the evening from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District's All-City Road Chorus. I wonder if we could have a round of applause for the CIM Quartet and the talented students from Cleveland. So when do we at Legal Aid light candles? We light candles when we empower our clients to see that they do have rights and are not second-class citizens. Our community partners light candles when they bring to us the injustices they see every day so that together we can resolve them. Our volunteer lawyers light candles when they go into our clients' communities to serve our clients in their neighborhoods. Most importantly, we help reveal our clients' light, which is too often hidden under that bushel, covered by the oppression of poverty and its indignities. We help our clients peel away those layers to reveal the brilliance of their own lights. We have the privilege of carrying that light into the world. In the end, their candles help light our way. We lit a candle when our staff attorney, Jennifer Becker, in our Ashtabula office won back the benefits of a disabled Vietnam veteran and had rescinded a government order for him to repay $39,000 in back benefits. We lit a candle when we brought into the light the infamous Brown brothers, Craig and Derek, two vindictive Cleveland slumlords who routinely cut off tenants' electricity and heat, locked them out of their apartments, and in acts of utter unconscionable meanness, stole one shoe from every pair of children's shoes in a tenant's closet. We lit a candle when we formed a partnership with Squire, Sanders, and Dempsey to establish a program for their attorneys to help victims of domestic violence. With this program, we've grown from serving 200 domestic violence clients in 2005 to over 600 this year. We light the darkness when we break through the stone wall a mother faces at her son's elementary school by successfully getting her child with severe autism placed in a year-round program with a specialized staff. We lit a candle for a client who had paid her mortgage for 25 years, but then she became disabled, and her monthly payment inexplicably skyrocketed. Legal aid attorney Dennis Dobos chased away her darkness when he saved her home from foreclosure, eliminating the balance on the mortgage. It is something seemingly so little, one small light, but it means so much, and it shows the power of the law when you have it. Finally, I think we can all hear the newfound light in our clients' lives in some of the many thank you notes, simple, direct, eloquent, we receive each year. Thank you, wrote one client, for restoring my stability. Thank you for being there for me, wrote another. Thank you, a mother wrote, for saving our housing voucher. You saved us from possibly being homeless. I can't imagine, wrote a friend of a client facing deportation, how dismal his chances would have been without your guidance. You gave us hope. Wrote another, you educated and comforted me. You really take the time to help people. What you do is a blessing to so many. A blessing to so many. Would that it could be for more. In the end, lighting a candle, washing back that darkness through the power of the law, is about restoring hope, stability, happiness, family, security, and finding or refinding a real future. The law is the means, a better life is the end. In a word, lighting candles against the darkness means securing justice. Thank you. Lighting the darkness, of course, depends on the dedication, experience, and resourcefulness of our wonderful staff, some of the recipients of those thank you notes I mentioned earlier. I'd like to turn the microphone over now to our Deputy Director, David Dawson, to announce this year's Legal Aid Staff Awards. These staff awards and other legal aid leadership development activities are funded by the Alan Medorsky Memorial Fund at Legal Aid. Dave?
Thank you, Colleen. The program on page 6 has information about the awards and the recipients, and I ask the recipients to stand when I announce your names. The first award is the Claudia Clark Award for Outstanding Service, named after Legal Aid's director from 1919 to 1956. Mr. Clark was instrumental in having some of the earliest consumer protection laws passed in the state of Ohio. The recipients of the Claudia Clark Award for Outstanding Services are Lucy Dukes, Camille Gill, and Tanya Whitsett. The Leadership Award recognizes outstanding staff leadership, tireless efforts for legal aid clients, and vision for legal aid. The Leadership Award is presented to Kate Ingersoll. And the last award is the C. Lionel Jones Lifetime Achievement Award. This award honors the legacy of Legal Aid's director for 37 years, who inspired many of us who are here tonight with his dedication to the work of the Legal Aid Society. The recipient of this award has been an attorney with the Legal Aid Society for 24 years and is the managing attorney of Legal Aid's practice group for health, education, work, income, and immigration. She brings insight, vision, and a devotion to equal justice to her leadership role at the Legal Aid Society. She mentors and supervises many attorneys, new and experienced, sharing with them her legal skills, compassion, and standards of high quality. The C. Lionel Jones Lifetime Achievement Award is presented to Stephanie Jackson.
Thank you, David, and congratulations. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to our board president, Isla Adkins. Isla's story, I think, perfectly makes the case for legal aid lighting the darkness in our clients' lives. Indeed, Isla personifies that. Isla is an attorney and in-house counsel at Charter One Bank. She is also our first board president who is a former client of legal aid. A number of years ago, Isla was a young mother with 2 children. When Isla was a child herself, she had been shuttled between foster and group homes since she was 14. She married young into a situation that she says was, quote, doing none of us any good. Enter legal aid in the person of someone many of you know, senior attorney Alexandria Rudin. Alexandria focuses on helping survivors of domestic violence. Alexandria represented Isla in her divorce and custody case, but more than that, she lit a candle that helped illuminate Isla's future. Isla went back to school in Lorraine, transferred to Cleveland State, earned her BA, and then on to Cleveland Marshall College of Law. Now, Isla is a leader in the Cleveland legal community and Legal Aid's president. She's giving back to the community more than you can imagine. It's an inspiring story. We are so proud that we could help Isla light those candles and just keep blowing away the darkness. Isla?
Thank you, Colleen. I cannot put into words, and I think you can all well imagine how much legal aid lightened my darkness, the burdens of my life, and those of my children at a very lost and hopeless time. Alexandria, my legal aid lawyer, had no patience for wasting time cursing the darkness. She was about lighting the way, solving the problem, lighting the darkness, and lighting my path forward to a future I never could have dreamed of, a path that led me here to become president of Legal Aid. I was just one client, one. But imagine dispelling that darkness and lighting those candles multiplied by thousands, even tens of thousands over the decades. Imagine that, and you will have a small sense of the power of legal aid in so many lives in our community. Tonight, I am here to help recognize and thank some of the people who have made mine and so many of these bright candles possible. First, Legal Aid's Board of Directors. Can you stand and be recognized for your service to Legal Aid, please? I'm very honored to serve with all of you. Next, we have some important leaders who will be leaving Legal Aid at the end of this year. Two of our board members are completing their 6-year terms as directors on our board, Carol Hayward and Jesse Anderson. They leave us a wiser and stronger organization. Carol was past chair of our finance committee and a dear friend of Legal Aid. Carol teaches at the Cleveland Marshall College of Law and was a leader behind Legal Aid establishing a reserve fund and ensuring strong board financial oversight. These key, unheralded, invisible, but essential components of a well-run organization. And Jesse. Jesse Anderson is a prominent Cleveland community activist and a community representative on Legal Aid's board. He also chairs Legal Aid's Grievance Committee. His wisdom and insight into the lives of Legal Aid's clients have helped keep the board grounded. It has been my honor to serve with you both. We're going to miss you both. If we could please give a round of applause to Carol and Jesse. I also want to announce the retirement of two of our most senior attorneys. David Dawson, our Deputy Director, and Harold Williams, the Managing Attorney of Legal Aid's Consumer Law Practice Group. Both David and Harold will be retiring at the end of this year. I personally think it's hard to imagine legal aid without them. They've been a part of the fabric of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, it seems, forever. David and Harold Bozo embody the soul and spirit of legal aid. Harold began 35 years ago, and David just celebrated his 40th anniversary. Their tenure spans 1/3 of legal aid's history. Harold has been called one of the icons of legal aid and is Ohio's leading figure in consumer law. He has long been the editor and principal author of Ohio Consumer Law, the Bible on the subject for judges, practitioners, and students across the states. Last year, in 2010, Attorney General Richard Cordray honored Harold with Ohio's first ever William J. Brown Consumer Protection Award for Harold's dedication and achievements in pursuing dignity for consumers in the marketplace. And David. And David Dawson, Legal Aid, has had one of the country's finest civil rights attorneys for his entire career. He left the Navy, went to law school, interned for an NAACP cooperative law firm in Memphis the very year after Dr. King's assassination. And then he took his first and only job here in Cleveland with our legal aid. We all know David for the amazing reach of his legal skills in fighting discrimination, restoring a client's driver's license, and setting the standard followed by courts for thousands of other suspended license cases, to domestic violence, to workers' rights, to Social Security, to his work as Deputy Director, and to expanding our critical volunteer lawyers program and beginning our critical fundraising efforts. In 2010, David, too, was honored by the Ohio Legal Assistance Foundation for his exceptional work and contributions in the field of poverty law. David has said, every day you come to work thinking you have an opportunity to make a significant difference in people's lives. And indeed you do. And you both have. David and Harold, we salute you both and wish you well.
Every so often I'm asked why we often reference Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement when we talk about our work. They'll say, "You're legal aid, you're not a civil rights organization." Ah, but we are, very much so. We may be 106 years old, born well before the modern civil rights movement, but we are very much a proud relative of that great movement of the 1950s and 1960s. We are fueled and inspired by that same passion for justice as Dr. King. We use the tools, the power, and the authority of the law to secure that justice, those inalienable rights, in the words of our founding fathers, on behalf of those who are low income and vulnerable. Which is why we are so proud and excited to have Congressman Lewis and Congressman Stokes with us this evening. You touch the heart of who we are. And I am privileged to introduce Congressman Stokes. Yet I really think this is the first time I have introduced someone who needs no introduction. Not in this room and not in this city. But I think I can add a little something that you may not know about Lou Stokes. He serves on our board of directors, and for many years, in many ways, he has been a tremendous friend to legal aid. He has served as our gracious host, quietly, modestly, on our visits to Washington. He has arranged meetings, made connections, and counseled us in innumerable ways in our efforts to educate policymakers about our quest for justice. And that support has led us directly here to this evening. Last year, Congressman Stokes was shepherding us around the U.S. Capitol, introducing us to congressmen and senators. We were with him in the Capitol building when we had a chance meeting with both Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Congressman John Lewis. What an afternoon. Well, you know the rest. That casual meeting with Lou Stokes in an echoing hallway in the U.S. Capitol led to the Justice's visit here for our dinner last year and to the Congressman's visit this year. So it is with great affection and thanks that I turn the podium over to Congressman Lewis Stokes.
Thank you. Thank you, Colleen. President Isla Adkins, members of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, Colleen, let me thank you for very kind and generous words and say it's an honor to have you introduce me on this occasion. You're doing such a tremendous job as our executive director, and I think everyone here is proud of you. Thank you so much. Before I introduce our keynote speaker for the evening, there are a couple of people in the audience I'd like to acknowledge. At some table here tonight is one of Congressman Lewis's colleagues in the United States Congress, our own Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, the 11th Congressional District of Ohio. Thank you. Also here at the table, I see at my right here and your left, I see Reverend Theophilus T. Cavanis, who is the Cleveland president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and who, because of his work in civil rights in January, will have his shoes enshrined at the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Walk of Fame. Thank you. Thank you. And also seated at that table is an icon of the civil rights movement, a man and his wife who were an integral part of the civil rights movement, a man who pastored with Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., and who walked with Dr. King and who walked with John Lewis, and who is known all over the country for his great contribution to the civil rights movement. Both he and his wife, Edwina, and Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr. Thank you. I consider it a great privilege to be here this evening, and it is a special honor to be asked to introduce my former colleague and my friend, Congressman John Lewis. It is rare enough to be a hero and a legend in one walk of life, but John Lewis has been so in two: the civil rights movement and in the United States Congress. His character and actions have made this a better country, a more just and truer reflection of our nation's ideals. I first met John Lewis in 1965 when he came to Cleveland with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They came to launch a registration drive of black voters. My brother Carl was making his first run for mayor, and Dr. King saw Cleveland's potential to be a model for other cities in successfully mobilizing black voters. Carl lost that year, but only by 1,700 votes. That told us that we could win. 2 years later, in 1967, I met John Lewis again when he returned to mobilize once more with Dr. King, and this time we won. And Carl Stokes made history by becoming the first black mayor of a major American city. John Lewis was an important part of that historic achievement in Cleveland. He was young, only 25, but already he had become one of Dr. Martin Luther King's key lieutenants, along with Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Andrew Young, Reverend Hosea Williams, and other illustrious individuals. John was the son of sharecroppers, born to poverty deep in rural Troy, Alabama. Yet his passion for justice came early and it came hard. It is said that as a little boy, he would cry at the killing of chickens and would bury them with prayers. Thus, from a very young age, John Lewis would not, could not sit passively by, cursing the darkness. He has worked his entire life to ignite the spark of justice, often at much personal risk. But he also had a deep commitment to the power of non-violent resistance. When he wanted to be the first black student at a local white college, he sought Dr. King's support. Dr. King was impressed with John's complete dedication to non-violence. Dr. King affectionately called him the boy from Troy. Indeed, John would be beaten, attacked, and arrested over 40 times on marches and at sit-ins, at segregated lunch counters and bus stations all over the South. Most notably and severely during the infamous Bloody Sunday, during the first march on Selma, Alabama, on March 7th, 1965. There was, wrote historian Taylor Branch about this young devotee of nonviolent protest, quote, an incandescence in Lewis that shone through his country upbringing, close quotes. In 1963, at the young age of 23, John had helped form the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that organized the sit-ins and demonstrations and then became its chairman. But 1963 would hold more for John Lewis. The year's signature event in the civil rights movement was the March on Washington in August, the largest march in the history of the United States Capitol. And this march was a crowning moment for this young civil rights leader. John, again, only 23 years old, would be a key organizer and one of its historic keynote speakers. Of the 10 speakers that day, John Lewis is the only one living today. He would go on to be the director of the Voter Education Project, registering over 4 million minorities. In 1986, after heading the Federal Volunteer Agency, Action, and serving on Atlanta's City Council, John was elected to Congress from the 5th Congressional District in Georgia, which includes Atlanta. And so John Lewis and I met again, now as members of Congress, colleagues of a different sort, but in a way, as minority representatives. We were both testaments to the success of his Herculean labors. I had already been serving in the House when John arrived, but his natural leadership quickly became obvious. When you wanted someone of unquestioned integrity who would stand up on an issue that was right for people, particularly minorities, the disadvantaged, and the poor, you could turn to John Lewis for leadership. John Lewis will stand with you back to back against any odds, as he stood with other marchers, facing dogs, fire hoses, and bull whips at Selma and at Montgomery. And so I can think of no one more fitting to speak at this annual dinner of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, an organization so passionately committed to justice that a man whose life has been passionately committed to lighting the candles of justice across America. Together with Dr. King, he helped change a nation. Please join me in a warm Cleveland welcome to an American giant, Congressman John Lewis.
Good evening. Good evening. My friend, my beloved friend and brother, Lou Stokes, I want to thank you for those kind words of introduction. You didn't have to say it. You didn't have to do it. But it made me feel good. Just thank you. I love you. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for standing up, speaking up, and speaking out. Thank you for your leadership. Madam Executive Director, Madam President, members of the Board of Directors, staff lawyers, all you wonderful volunteer lawyers, to each and every one of you that support the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, thank you. I know my good friend, Reverend Dr. Moss and his lovely wife. I've known him so long. Otis Moss, you started when you were young, someplace down in Georgia, in Atlanta, and other places. Your wife worked many years at CLC. Thank you all for being my brother and my sister. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Now, you heard in the introduction that I didn't grow up in a very big city like Cleveland. I didn't grow up in a big city like Dayton, Youngstown, Cincinnati, Columbus, no, Chicago or Detroit, Atlanta or Philadelphia or Washington. You heard Lou Stokes tell you, my colleague and my friend and my sister and your Congresswoman, Marsha Flood. Now, Marsha, I want you to close your ears because you heard this story over and over before. You're more than blessed, you're lucky to have this young lady representing you in the Congress. She is wonderful. Thank you. Madam Director, I think you heard the story earlier today when we were in Youngstown, but I'm going to tell it again. Is it okay? Absolutely. It's legal. Now, when I was growing up on that farm during the 40s and the 50s, yes, my father was a sharecropper, a tenant farmer. But in 1944, when I was 4 years old, how many of you remember when you were 4? What happened to the rest of us? But in 1944, when I was 4 years old, my father had saved $300. And with the $300, he bought 110 acres of land. My family still owns that land today in rural Pike County, Alabama, 10 miles outside of Troy, 50 miles from Tuskegee and Montgomery. On this farm, we raised a lot of cotton and corn, peanuts, hogs, cows, and chickens. I'm not trying to suggest that any of you lawyers here tonight are chicken. I know you're not. But on the farm, it was my responsibility. We had chicken for dinner tonight, right? On this farm, it was my responsibility to care for the chickens, to raise the chickens. And I fell in love with raising chickens like no one else could raise chickens. I know some of you here know about Popeyes, Kentucky Fried, Chick-fil-A, and maybe a few others. But you don't know anything about raising chickens. Let me tell you what I had to do as a young boy. Had to take the fresh eggs, mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and wait for 3 long weeks for the little chicks to hatch. Some of you may be saying, now, John Lewis, why do you mark those fresh eggs with a pencil before you place them under the setting hen? Well, from time to time, another hen would get on that same nest, and there would be some more fresh eggs. You had to be able to tell the fresh eggs from the eggs that were already under the setting hen. Do you follow me? You don't follow me. It's okay. It's all right. When these little chicks were hatched, I would fool these setting hens. I would cheat on these setting hens. I would take these little chicks and put them in a box with a lantern, raise them on their own, or give them to another hen and encourage the setting hen to stay in the nest for another 3 weeks. I kept on fooling and cheating these setting hens. And when I look back on it, it was not the right thing to do. It was not the moral thing to do. It was not the legal thing to do. It was not the most democratic thing to do. It was not the most nonviolent thing to do. But I was never quite able to save $18.98 to order the most inexpensive hatcher or incubator from the Sizzle Roebuck store. Now, in Cleveland, you don't know anything about Sizzle Roebuck, do you? Any of you old enough to remember the Sizzle Roebuck catalog? That book we call the ordering book. We would order everything, and sometimes we would call it the wish book. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. Now, as a young child, I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to preach the gospel. So from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters and my first cousin, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard, like you would gather in this hall, here in this ballroom. My brothers and sisters and cousins would gather around the outside of the chicken yard. And I would start speaking or preaching. And some of those chickens would bow their heads. Some of those chickens would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced, Lou, Stokes, and Congresswoman Fudge, that some of those chickens that I preached to during the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of our colleagues listen to us today in the Congress. As a matter of fact, some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. Now, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. I want to thank all of the lawyers, all of the staff, for all of your good and great work. I consider it a great honor to stand among you tonight because legal aid and public defenders lawyers are a special breed. You, like those of us who participated in the civil rights movement during the 60s, are men and women who marched to the beat of a different drama and answer a higher calling. You heard the sign of the trumpet, and you responded. While other Americans are sleeping, shopping, going to school, taking a break, or hard at work, you are defending their liberty. You're standing up, you're speaking up, and you're speaking out. When I was growing up and would visit the little town of Troy, visit Montgomery, visit Tuskegee, I saw those signs that said white men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. I would come home and ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? And they would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble. But Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. inspired me to find a way to get in trouble. For more than 106 years, you have been getting in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. I come here tonight to say thank you for all that you continue to do. Continue to get in trouble. Really good trouble. I do not know what our country would be like without the Legal Aid Society. There would be too many people left out and left behind. There's no one to defend them, no one to help them, no one to lift their burdens. You are the salt of the earth. You are happy to redeem the soul of America. The city of Cleveland, the state of Ohio, and our nation. And as a people, we're a better people, we're a better country. So I say thank you. Embrace yourself. Pat yourself on the back for all of your good and great work. We've come a distance. We made progress, but we still have a great distance to go. There are people in this state and around our nation are trying to take us back. But you must say that we're not going back. We've come too far, and we're not going back. We're going to stand up, we're going to push, and we're going to pull, and that's exactly what you must do. I'm not a lawyer, but I love the law, and I love lawyers. Because I got arrested and went to jail 40 times during the 60s. And 4 times since I've been a member of Congress. And your brothers and sisters defended me. Your brothers and sisters got me out of jail. They brought light to a very dark place. Continue to do what you are doing. Continue to get in the way. Sometimes it seems like it's trouble on every hand. We're seeing big banks bail out, mortgages crumble, and no corporation too big to fail. If we had faith in the status quo, now we know that any one of us at any time can come to a place where we might need the service of the Legal Aid Society. Any of us, with your credentials as lawyers, you could have been working with some multinational firm with offices in London or Dubai. You could be living in a penthouse suite in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, in Australia. You could be traveling around the world representing rock stars, but you decided there was something more important than fame or fortune. You decided to find a way to get in the way. You define it, you decided, and you find a way to help the least among us. And I say thank you. You put aside the comforts of your own life and got involved in the circumstances of others. You decided to bring light. Now, I said to you tonight, members of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, you must never ever give up. You must never ever give in or give out. You must not get lost in a sea of despair. You must keep the faith. When we were arrested, when we were jailed, when we were beaten and left for dead, we didn't give up. We lift up our heads and we continue to march. I said the other day in Washington, that when I went up on the scaffold before the memorial to Dr. King was completed, I was able to touch his face, to rub his head. And I came down and someone asked me whether the election of Barack Obama was a fulfillment of Dr. King's dream. I said, no, it's just a down payment. We have a lot of work to do. We made a lot of progress. We cannot stop. We cannot stop now. There's too much work to be done. There are too many of our brothers and sisters are hurting. I like what the Legal Aid Society is doing here. Helping people that need help. Helping people that are lost their homes, people involved in domestic violence, people who've been denied equal justice, a fair hearing. There are people all across America tonight that are living in fear because in so many of our states, not just in the South, we want to send people to some other land and say they are not legal. There's no such thing as an illegal human being. We have to speak up. It's not just Georgia, or Alabama, or Arizona, but there's too many people saying they do not speak the same language. They look different. They're not one of us. That's not right, that's not fair, and it's not just. And we have to come up and fight for all of the people that live on this little piece of real estate we call America. Just maybe our foremothers and our forefathers all came to this great land in different ships. We are all in the same boat now. So it doesn't matter whether we are black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. We're one people. We're one family. We're one house. We are our brothers and our sisters' keeper. No one, but no one should be discriminated against because of his race, his color, national origin, his religion, or sexual orientation. Tonight, I will tell another little story, and I'll be finished. And it'll been a long day for you. You're beautiful, you're handsome, but you don't want to stay here all night. I know it. When I was growing up outside of Troy, Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, I had an aunt by the name of Seneva. And my Aunt Seneva lived in what we call a shotgun house. I know what I'm talking about because I was born in a shotgun house. You don't know what I'm talking about. My Aunt Seneva didn't have a green manicured lawn, had a simple plain dirt yard. And sometime at night you can look up through the ceiling, through the holes in the tin roof, and count the stars. When it would rain, she would get a pail, a bucket, a tub, and catch the rainwater. From time to time, she would walk out into the woods and cut branches from a dogwood tree and tie these branches together and make a broom, and she called that broom the brush broom. And she would sweep this dirt yard clean sometime 2 and 3 times a week, especially on a Friday or Saturday, because she wanted that dirt yard to look very good during the weekend. One Saturday afternoon, a group of my brothers and sisters and first cousins were playing in my Aunt Seneva dirt yard. And an unbelievable storm came up. The wind started blowing, the thunder started rolling, and the lightning started flashing. And my Aunt Seneva got us all together and told us to hold hands. Those of you who do not know what a shotgun house is, in a nonviolent sense, old house, one way in, one way out. where you can bounce a basketball through the front door and it will go straight out the back door. But on this particular Saturday afternoon when the storm came up, the wind started blowing, the thunder started rolling, the lightning started flashing, and the rain started beating on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. My aunt cried and cried. She became terrified. She thought this old house was going to blow away. She got all of us together and told us to hold hands, and we did as we were told. When one corner of this old house appeared to be lifted from its foundation, she had us to walk to that corner to try to hold the house down with our little bodies. When the other side appeared to be lifted, had us to walk to that side. We were little children walking with the wind, but we never left the house. I said to you, the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland have been trying to hold the house of Cleveland together. I said, call it the house of the Legal Aid Society. You must never, ever leave the house. You must stay with this organization, stay with this institution, and continue to support it. Going to final analysis, we are one house. We all live in the same house. We're one people. We're one family. I said to you tonight, walk with the Legal Aid Society and let the spirit of this organization and all of these wonderful lawyers and volunteer lawyers, the staff, the executive director, the president, be your guide. Not give up. Don't give in. Keep the faith and keep your eyes on the prize. Thank you very much.
light up my life.
Have a great evening. Thank you again for coming.